Hello everyone, I'm Amber, and welcome to Which Honkai Star Ultimates Can V1 Parry? V1 is a character from Ultra Kill, if you don't know. Go play Ultra Kill, it's a good game. Now, this is an idea I came up with on the spot and then immediately started writing the script for, and soon after started recording, like right now. I'm pretty quick with these things, which I don't know if is a good or bad thing. And also, enjoy the footage of me playing Ultra Kill with arms only like the psychopath that I am. Part 1. What is considered an ultimate? First up, we need to consider what is considered valid for an ultimate. If you don't care about this part, skip to this time on screen. Characters that do not attack with their ultimate will not necessarily be ruled out. For example, Asta. She swings her staff in her ultimate, which isn't exactly an attack, but we're still going to see if V1 can parry that or not because it would be boring otherwise. Another is Natasha. She shoots a projectile from her grenade launcher, which isn't a projectile that attacks enemies, but we're still going to see if V1 can parry that projectile, because it'll be more fun that way. Now we have characters that enhance themselves with their ultimate and gain a new skill or attack afterwards. So, the Herta, for example, she gains a new skill after she uses her ultimate, even though her ultimate is one where she performs an attack. But we're still going to count both the ultimate and the skill as part of the ultimate to see if V1 can parry both things, because I'd say the skill is still part of the ultimate. Another is Firefly, where her ultimate isn't an attack exactly, but she gains access to a new enhanced basic attack and enhanced skill, and we're going to consider those part of the ultimate. Part 2. What can and cannot be parried? Now we need to cover what can V1 parry and what can't V1 parry in Ultra Kill. In Ultra Kill, V1 can parry certain melee attacks and projectiles by punching them with the feedbacker, which is one of 3 arms that V1 has access to, and it requires proper timing. So you need to hit the melee attack or the projectile at the right time to send it back at the enemy, or make the enemy take damage from it, and most of the time cancel the attack. Sometimes it doesn't though. The general rule of parries is that if there is a yellow flash, the attack can be parried. But if there is a blue flash, the attack cannot be parried. And this is for melee attacks. Most projectiles, however, don't have an indicator if they can or cannot be parried. But certain attacks like lasers do, like the Mind Flayer's laser attack. There are also certain hit scan projectiles, which hit their target immediately after they are fired. One example of this is V2's revolver, where they fire it and it immediately hits wherever it's shot. Or the Sentry, where it shoots its beam, which immediately hits wherever it's shot, just like V2's revolver. Now, both of these attacks can be parried, which is pretty important to think about. Due to this, we can determine that consistent attacks, such as lasers, cannot be parried, like the Mind Flayer's beam, but direct attacks, like projectiles or hit scan projectiles, can be parried. Now, onto melee attacks. They're typically shown with a yellow or blue flash before they happen to show if they can or cannot be parried, but not all of them are like this. Let's look at the Ferryman, for example. The Ferryman has multiple different attacks. Some of them are shown with a yellow flash to see that they can be parried, and some of them are shown with a blue flash to show that they cannot be parried. For cases where there is no direct indicator if it can or cannot be parried, as in the flash, we'll decide on the go based on how the attack looks. Certain attacks in Star Rail also have flashes that are not yellow or blue, and we're just going to decide on the spot whether it can or cannot be parried, not related to the color. Alright, now that all of that is out of the way, let's get on to the main subject of the video. The Ultimates. Part 3. The Ultimates. Now, I'm going to show footage of each ultimate one by one, and then afterwards I will talk about what happened in the ultimate, and then we can decide whether it is or isn't something that V1 can parry. Destruction Trailblazer. Stell's bat is clearly glowing blue, and I'm going to decide that this is considered a blue flash. It isn't exactly a flash, but I'd say it's close enough. So let's say that V1 cannot parry Destruction Stell's ultimate. That was a pretty quick one. Let's hope not all of them are like this, or else this will be a really boring video. Preservation Trailblazer. We made a choice, go fight against your fate. They will come with the blade. We need to quickly go over something that I didn't go over in the intro. Explosions. So in Ultra Kill, explosions themselves cannot be parried, but things that cause explosions typically can be. That's it. That's all we have to say. Next is the dash forward. Considering Stell dashes with her body and not the lance itself, which is quite a sharp object which normally wouldn't be able to be parried, I'm going to say that V1 can parry her body as it's traveling forward quickly, and cancel out the rest of the ultimate. Next up is the explosions and the giant pillar of flame afterwards. As we said earlier, V1 cannot parry explosions, and the giant pillar of flame is similar enough to a consistent attack like a laser, so we're going to say that V1 cannot parry the pillar of flames either. So, V1 can parry Preservation Stell's ultimate with the initial dash, but cannot parry the explosions or pillar of flames afterwards. Harmony Trailblazer. This one is our first ultimate where it isn't directly an attack and is instead an animation that provides a buff, or in some other cases healing, but this one isn't a case where it provides healing. So, when Stell passes the hat to Clocky or tosses it up in the air, I'm going to consider that a projectile, because when Stell uses her basic attack in-game, she throws the hat and it hits the enemy and acts as a, well, projectile. Now, we're not covering basic attacks or skills in this, but we might use them to decide if the ultimate itself is something that can or cannot be parried, based on if it's a projectile or a melee attack or not, and such like that. So, we're going to sometimes be using that, just like in this case. I would say that V1 could get close enough to parry the hat while Stell is tossing it up or passing it to Clocky, because it's still a projectile during that state. And it would be a bit hard to angle, but it's still a projectile either way. So V1 can parry Harmony Stell's ultimate. Remembrance Trailblazer. First, we need to take a look at an Ultra Kill enemy's attack to decide something for this ultimate, that being the Corpse of King Minos. The Corpse of King Minos has an attack where he raises his fist up and slams it down, which is quite similar to Mem's attack, where they raise their paw up and slam it down. Now, this attack that the Corpse of King Minos performs is one that can be parried, so I'm going to say that Mem's slam can also be parried because it's similar enough. The shockwave afterwards, however, is something that can't be parried. Shockwaves in Ultra Kill, such as Cerberus' Stomp, cannot be parried, so there's no reason for this one to be able to either. There's plenty of shockwaves in other ultimates, and we're going to say that those two can't be parried. Now, still moving her quill down does seem to be part of the ultimate, but I'm not going to exactly count it since that's not really an attack, it's just instructing Mem to slam its paw down. And we already decided Mem's paw can be parried, so there's no reason for the quill to be able to be parried. Either way, Remembrance Stell's ultimate can be parried. Preservation March 7th. This one should be pretty obvious. If you take a look, there's a blue flash, meaning the arrow that March fires cannot be parried. There's a pink flash too, but I say the blue flash takes priority, meaning it can't be parried. The pink flash doesn't exactly mean anything either in Ultra Kill, so blue flash takes priority, the arrow cannot be parried. There's also ice crystals afterwards that split from the arrow, but I'm going to say that these two can't be parried because they're something that come off of the arrow itself. So, that too cannot be parried, and neither can the small explosions that it makes because, as we said earlier, explosions cannot be parried. Therefore, V1 cannot parry Preservation March 7th's ultimate. The Hunt March 7th. The beginning part with the visions doesn't exactly matter, so we're going to ignore that. The part that does matter is the red flash, the red slashes, and the explosion afterwards. The first part that we're going to cover is the explosion at the end. That part cannot be parried because it's an explosion. Simple enough. The part that does matter is the red flash and the red slashes afterwards. Red slashes are not something that is in Ultra Kill, so we're going to have to decide whether they do or don't mean that the attack can be parried. I'm going to say that red flashes in this video can decide whether or not they can be parried on the spot. So, let's decide right now. Can the red slashes in March 7th's ultimate be parried or not? So the red flash here, I'm going to say, is something that can be parried initially, but means the slashes afterwards can't be parried. So, if V1 hits the initial red flash, that means the attack can be parried, but V1 cannot parry the slashes afterwards. Does that make sense? Good. So, This means that V1 can parry March 7th's ultimate, but only to cancel out the ultimate afterwards, which cannot be parried. Arlan. The blue electricity can act as a blue flash to show that both melee attacks performed in Arlan's ultimate cannot be parried. This is a simple case. V1 cannot parry Arlan's ultimate. Asta. When Asta's staff spins, there is an orange flash and then a slight blue flash after it. I'm going to start counting orange flashes as yellow flashes for simplicity's sake, or else we'd be here all day deciding, is an orange flash yellow or is it not? We can use this to say that the yellow flash means that the swing of Asta's staff can be parried, but the blue flash means that anything afterwards, as in the ultimate itself happening, can't be parried if the staff swing had been missed. Basically, V1 can parry Asta's ultimate. Heng. We can consider the yellow line to be a yellow flash, meaning that the attack following after it can be parried. If we take a look at the Ferryman once more, it has an attack similar to Heng's ultimate where it thrusts the spear forwards, and that too has a yellow flash, meaning that it can be parried. So we are going to say that Heng's ultimate can be parried by V1. Herta. There's a lot to unpack here, so let's start with the beginning. The projectile shot from the hammer is a crystal, and I'm going to say it can be parried because, it's a projectile, it's small enough to be punched, there's no disputing that. We're going to have to decide if the purple flash means it can or can't be parried, and I'm going to say in this case, it means it cannot be parried. It's indicating that the diamond has grown too big to be parried now, and the purple's similar enough to blue after all. Now it's time to twirl! Moving on to Herta's jump and spin, we are going to take a look at an Ultra Kill enemy's attack again. Get used to that. The enemy we're looking at is the Swords Machine. The Swords Machine can throw its sword and make it spin forward, just like how Herta spins in her ultimate. And the sword can be parried, so I'm going to say that Herta can be parried. Guess it's not time to twirl anymore. The diamond being hit down should also be unparryable. If you can't parry the big diamond itself, there's no reason for it to be able to be parried when it's being slammed down by Herta's hammer. In summary, V1 can parry the initial projectile of the diamond, and Herta's spin and Herta's ultimate, but cannot parry the diamond once it's grown big or the slam afterwards. Hook. Hook is quickly moving around in her ultimate on her weird chain thingy. I don't know how to describe it at all. But we're going to say that V1 can parry it to stop her from moving. The trail of flames that it leaves afterwards, however, is not going to be parryable since it's a stationary hazard. The explosion at the end is a simple case. It's an explosion, so it can't be parried. This means that V1 can parry Hook's ultimate, but not the trail of flames or the explosion it leaves afterwards. Natasha, an underworld doctor. Feeling sick? Starting with the teddy bear that Natasha throws into the air. It's a projectile, so I'm going to say that V1 can parry it. Natasha's shot with the grenade launcher is a thin beam, meaning it looks like a hit scan projectile, just like our revolvers that we've covered before, which could be parried, so this too can be parried after the teddy bear. If neither of them are parried and the teddy bear is shot to make the gifts start launching from the sky, I'm going to say that those gifts should be parryable, because they're just falling objects. There's no flash to indicate that they can't be parried, so why not make them projectiles? This means that V1 can parry Natasha's ultimate. Pela. We can clearly see that there are orange flashes on Pela's drones, and like we said earlier, orange flashes are considered yellow flashes now. The beams fired from the drones are similar to a sentry's beam, which can be parried, but there's 4 of them, so you couldn't parry all 4 at the same time. But regardless, V1 can parry Pela's ultimate, even if not all 4 hits can be parried at the same time. Xingque. Or as I like to call her, Gamble Girl. It's unrelated, but I just wanted to mention it. Let's go gambling! Xingque's eyes flash yellow, and so does the tile she holds, meaning V1 can parry it as she slams it down. Now, I was actually editing different lines and I had to come back to re-record this since I realized there are yellow flashes. I at first thought it was unparryable, but it is parryable, so good thing I caught that. So, unlike I was originally gonna say, V1 can parry Xingqiu's ultimate. Gamble Girl, not on top anymore, I guess. Sampo. Shampoo. There is a yellow flash as Sampo opens the box, so I'm going to say that V1 could parry that to cancel the explosion. The explosion itself, of course, can't be parried, but it seems to be a smoke bomb anyways, so it's safe regardless. When Sampo slashes while dashing away, we can't see how he's doing it, so I'm going to assume it's some sort of instant melee attack that V1 cannot parry, as it's too fast, and we can't see what's happening. Sampo being way too fast for V1, that doesn't sound right. Oh well. This means that V1 can parry Sampo's ultimate initially, but not the follow-up slashes that happen afterwards. Serval. This one's kind of obvious. There's no attack to parry as Serval is strumming her guitar, and the lightning striking down isn't something that can exactly be parried. But there's another way to sort of parry it, but not exactly a parry itself, so we aren't going to count it, but let's go over it anyways. In Ultra Kill, lightning can be reflected by tossing a coin into it, and I would say that Serval's lightning too could be reflected by tossing a coin into it. No reason for it not to be able to be, right? Basically, V1 cannot parry Serval's ultimate, but can reflect it with a coin. Sushang. Sushang bringing her sword down isn't exactly an attack, but there is a yellow flash as she does it, so I'm going to say that it can be parried to cancel the chicken from being summoned afterwards. Yes, I know, it is a phoenix, I don't care at all. It's a chicken. The chicken charging and slamming down is using the full force of its body, so I would say that can't be parried. There's an Ultra Kill enemy that does a somewhat similar thing, the Gutter Tank. The Gutter Tank can perform a punch that uses the full force of its body, as can be told because if it's missed, it trips, which can't be parried, so I would say this too can't be parried because it's using the full force of its body. Got it? Good. Therefore, V1 can parry Sushang's ultimate, but not the chicken afterwards. You can't parry the chicken. You can't parry the chicken. I'm not going to say it. Chicken Jack. Tingyun. Natsuki called. She wants her neck back. Tingyun's silly little dance obviously isn't an attack, but I would say there is a way it can be parried. It's when the fan is being raised up, as there are plenty of yellow flashes happening, so obviously indicating you can parry it. This means that V1 can parry Tingyun's ultimate. Yukong. The arrow glows blue on the tip, so I'm going to say it can't be parried. And the same case for the definitely not paper airplanes. What even are they? I still can't tell what they are after looking at them. Regardless, they come from the arrow, so they too can't be parried. So, V1 cannot parry Yukong's ultimate. Luca. There's no flash, so we're going to have to decide if this can or cannot be parried. I'm going to say that V1 could parry Luca's fists before the explosion since it's just a simple melee attack. Well, it's a bit more than simple, but like, come on, V1 can parry that. V1's parried worse. The explosion afterwards, of course, can't be parried. Regardless, V1 can parry Luca's ultimate, just not the explosion afterwards. Lynx. The fish that she throws looks kind of like the fish from 5-S, don't you think? That one right there, that one right there. Starting with the small items that come out of her bag, I'd say they're too small to be some sort of parryable attack at all. I'd say the pill that she takes out also shouldn't be parryable. It's not in the air long enough to be considered a projectile in my opinion, and it shouldn't be parried while it's in her hands because I'd just be punching a big pill. So what is punching a big pill that someone's carrying gonna do? That's not gonna damage her, that's not parrying. Are you crazy? Do you think that parrying a big pill is a parrying big pill? Ow, my hand! I don't know if we're gonna keep that. This means that V1 cannot parry Lynx's ultimate, but it's just because there's nothing to parry. Gneifen. Silly alarm, silly alarm, silly alarm! I can't say the actual thing because this video is family friendly. Wait a minute. This isn't family friendly, this is an Ultra Kill video. Insignificant fuck! Gnaifin ringing the gong actually has some yellow flashes, so I'm going to say that's an indicator that something can be parried. But what can be parried? I'm going to say the D-Tings. The D-Tings are the small little dog things that are summoned from Gnaifin's ultimate, and I'm going to say that V1 can parry those to stop them from exploding later on in the ultimate. And as we say with everything, the explosions later on cannot be parried. So, V1 can parry Gnaifin's ultimate, but not the explosion that comes afterwards. Hanya. The flames in Hanya's ultimate don't deal damage, so I'm going to consider them not something that's parryable. And same with the pillars. The pillars don't deal damage, and they seem like they would just be some sort of obstacle for V1 instead. You could argue that Hanya lifting the brush is a parryable attack, since we counted Ting Yun's fan being lifted as a parryable attack. But with Ting Yun's fan there were yellow flashes, and there is no yellow flash. So I'm going to say it's different enough. Plus, what sort of attack is lifting a paintbrush? Lifting a fan is definitely different. That's totally different. Come on, guys, you can agree with me. This means that V1 cannot parry Hanya's ultimate, but it is because there is nothing to parry. Shuiyi. Machine, turn back now. The layers of the shackling prison are not for your kind. There's an orange flash when the blades connect, and we consider orange flashes to be yellow flashes, meaning the blades being thrown can be parried. It would be a bit difficult due to how fast it is, but it's still parry nonetheless. This means that V1 can parry Shuiyi's ultimate. Misha. Now, there is a tiny little yellow flash at the beginning, and I'm going to count that as a yellow flash because it's my video, screw you, I get to make the rules. I apologize, dear viewer, do not screw you, I love you, please keep watching the video. Anyways, I'm going to say that Misha's cart can be parried to knock over all the luggage on it. There is the yellow flash to indicate it after all, and the luggage that gets knocked over from it initially anyways, and the luggage that would get knocked over afterwards, should be parryable since it's just projectiles. Therefore, V1 can parry Misha's ultimate. Gallagher. I guess you could say I gallagged her. Gallagher's ultimate also gives him access to an enhanced basic attack, so we're going to need to cover that too. Considering Gallagher's punch here has 3 claws, I'm going to consider it unparryable because those claws seem a bit too sharp for V1 to parry, and there's no blue flash, but there's no yellow flash either. You know, Gallagher's hit and punch from the enhanced basic attack also have the claws, so I'm gonna say they have the same rules and cannot be parried. This means that V1 cannot parry Gallagher's ultimate. Mose. Considering how instantaneous Mose's ultimate is, I'm going to say it can't be parried. The dash and slash that happen afterwards are just way too fast. There's no blue flash, there's no yellow flash either, though, so you could argue that. But I'm going to say it can't be parried, so V1 cannot parry Mose's ultimate. Bailu. Bailu opening the gourd does have a yellow flash, so V1 could parry that to prevent her from doing the ultimate immediately. The spiral of water afterwards seems like a consistent beam, so I'm going to say that can't be parried. Too similar to something like a Mind Flayer's laser, but, you know, spirally. This means that V1 can parry Bailu's ultimate, just not the spiral of water. Bronya. When Bronya brings her gun out, there is a blue flash, but a yellow flash afterwards. I'm going to assume this means that when Bronya initially swings the gun, that can't be parried, but there's a window afterwards where it can be parried. This is similar to the gutter tank, like how we mentioned earlier, how it can't be parried with the initial punch, but can be parried after it is tripped. This means that V1 can parry Bronya's ultimate, just not the initial swing. Clara, the baby isn't mine. Doesn't Svarog look like he could be V1's dad? I guess Clara has a sibling now. Anyways, there isn't exactly an attack to be parried in this ultimate. Clara crying out, obviously not attack, and Svarog spawning in also is not an attack, since you can't parry when enemies spawn in an Ultra Kill, that'd just be punching them. I mean, you can punch Svarog, but, I mean, he's just gonna counter you. This means that oh my god. Oh my god. Svarog even does a counter. Oh my god, he is V1's dad. Oh my god. Oh, anyways. V1 cannot parry Clara or Svarog. Gepard. Starting with a wall of ice, it doesn't hurt enemies, so we're gonna say this is just some sort of obstacle. For Gepard raising his fist, however, you can clearly see it is glowing blue, so that can't be parried. And right before he slams his fist down, it flashes blue once more, so that too can't be parried, meaning V1 cannot parry Gepard's ultimate. Himeko. The targeting laser has a red flash, but after the targeting laser there is a blue flash, so I'm going to say that the laser it fires cannot be parried, and of course the explosion can't be parried, therefore V1 cannot parry Himeko's ultimate. Welt. For the black hole that Welt summons, we're going to need to take a look at something in Ultra Kill once more. The corpse of King Minos, hey, he's our friend, he's coming back again. He can summon black holes, and if V1 tries to touch these, including if you try to parry them, which doesn't work, it brings you down to 1 HP. So we are going to say that Welt's black hole can do the same thing. Jesus Christ. Text. Before Welt slices the black hole, there is a yellow flash, meaning that if V1 was close enough to Welt at this point, they could parry him. Meaning V1 can parry Welt's ultimate, just not the initial black hole. Yanqing. Yanqing riding his sword is a tough case. There is no flash of either color, so we're going to have to decide. We have had characters dashing forward, like Preservation Stell, when we said she could be parried, but that was only because she was just using her body, not the lance itself. Yanqing is riding his sword, which also seems to be faster, so I'm going to say this can't be parried. During the actual slashes of the ultimate, Yanqing can't even be seen, so there's nothing for V1 to parry, therefore V1 cannot parry Yanqing's ultimate. Seela. There is a purple flash, which we've decided is the same as a blue flash, meaning already we can decide that this can't be parried. Plus, just look at how fast Seela is moving. Considering that, I would say that V1 cannot parry Seela's ultimate. Jing Yuan. If we apply the rules that we used for the corpse of King Minos, we would say that Jing Yuan's Lightning Lord, which is the big god thing, could be parried, but I'm going to say that the weapon is a bit too fast and too sharp. What's that? What? Jing Yuan's eye glows yellow? No, silly. That's a yellow glow, not a yellow flash. It's different. V1 can't parry Jing Yuan's ultimate. Silver Wolf. If we look closely, there is a yellow flash right before Silver Wolf presses the last button, meaning V1 could parry her hand to stop the strike from above. The laser itself cannot be parried since it's an airstrike laser, that can't be parried. This means that V1 can parry Silver Wolf's ultimate, just not the laser afterwards. Luosha. Again, if we look closely, there is a yellow flash on Luosha's coffin, meaning the 5 blades that come out can be parried before they stick to the ground. Once the blades stick into the ground, however, I'd say they become hazards, meaning they can't be parried. The large blade that comes from above, however, I'm going to use the same rules as Susrang's chicken and say that it too can't be parried. Regardless, V1 can parry the Luosha's ultimate, just not once the blades have stuck into the ground or the large blade afterwards. Blade. Speaking of blades, we got Bladey! There is a pink flash before Blade slams down, and we're gonna have to decide what that means. If we take a look at the Ferryman once more, it also has an attack where it slams down, and this attack can be parried, meaning Blade's attack that is similar to this can be parried. The large slashes that come afterwards, however, I'm going to say cannot be parried. They're too similar to some sort of consistent beam. This means that V1 can parry the initial strike of Blade's ultimate, just not the slashes that come afterwards. Kafka. There are both yellow and blue flashes on Kafka's guns, so we're gonna have to decide which one to pick. And I'm gonna pick the blue flashes to say it can't be parried. There are multiple rapid-fire guns in Ultra Kill, like V2's nail gun, or the Gutter Tank's minigun, and both of those cannot be parried, so I'm going to say a rapid-fire gun like Kafka's 2 cannot be parried. Assuming that the bullets from above come from the same guns, we're gonna say those 2 cannot be parried, meaning V1 cannot parry Kafka's ultimate. Dan Heng Imbibitor Lunae. The blue flash in Dan Heng's eye makes this one clear. This obviously cannot be parried. The dragon charging with its mouth wide open also just seems like something that can't be parried in the first place. There is an attack in Ultra Kill similar to this, that being the Leviathan when it charges forward, and that attack can be parried, but prior to the Ultra Revamp update, there was actually a blue flash for it. This, however, is the only instance where there is a blue flash that can be parried. It could still be parried. But I'm still just gonna say that because of how wide open the dragon's mouth is, it cannot be parried, meaning V1 cannot parry Dan Heng Imbibitor Lunae's ultimate. Fushuan. This one is kind of clear. Both the Eruption and Giant Laser kinda seem like it's out of the feedbacker's capability, so we're just gonna say V1 cannot parry Fushuan's ultimate. Jingliu. There is no flash, so we're going to have to decide ourselves whether this can or cannot be parried. I'm going to say this case is similar to Blades, where the initial strike can be parried, but the slash that comes afterwards, the mini slashes, and the explosion, cannot be parried. This means that V1 can parry Jingliu's ultimate, just not everything that comes after the initial strike. Topaz and Numby. Each time Numby picks up a coin, there are a lot of sparkles of different colors, so we're gonna have to decide what that means. I'm going to say that when Numby picks up a coin, that is a window where he can be parried, but in between the coins cannot be parried. Why? I am going to say that the coins here are considered normal coins, so they can be shot, but that's not a parry, this is just something else that I wanted to say. Regardless of that, V1 can parry Topaz and Numby's ultimate just during a specific window of time. That is like any other parry, but like, you know what I mean. I feel like I say you know what I mean too much, do I? No. Well. When Tail appears, who is the ghost/Heliobus, there are yellow flashes. So I'm going to say that V1 could parry Tail as he's moving around Huohuo. This means that V1 can parry Huohuo's ultimate. Argenti. Argenti does have 2 ultimates, but the second one is the same as the first with an extra attack afterwards, so we're only going to go over the second one. When Argenti is initially swinging his spear, there are yellow flashes, meaning the ultimate can already be parried. There are also yellow flashes around the rose as Argenti is spinning his spear, so I'm gonna say that V1 could parry Argenti swinging his spear there to cancel the slashes after that too. This means that V1 can parry Argenti's ultimate. Ranmei, also known as the Herta's wife. Ranmei strumming the instrument isn't exactly an attack, and neither are the flower petals that come afterwards, so we can already say there's nothing to parry, therefore V1 cannot parry Ranmei's ultimate, but it's just because there's nothing to parry. Dr. Ratio. 0 points! Next! Due to how massive and heavy the pillar would be, I'm going to say that it cannot be parried, including while it is collapsing. In Ultra Kill, the level 7-2, there is a giant clock tower that collapses, and that can't be parried. To be fair, it is just an obstacle and not an attack, but I'm going to count it anyways. Wait, what was that? There are yellow flashes on the pillar? Dang it! Okay, let's revise that. Let's say that V1 can parry the pillar right before it collapses to send it the other way. There. That's better. V1 can parry Dr. Aishi's ultimate just right before it collapses, not when it is falling. Black Swan. Yo, another super gay character! Originally I was going to say this can be parried, but when Swan holds out the card there is a blue flash, meaning this can't be parried. I was going to say it can be parried because the hands are similar to the corpse of King Minos' hand, but the blue flash cancels that, so V1 cannot parry Black Swan's ultimate. Sparkle. Sparkle on! It's Tuesday. Don't forget to be yourself. The masks in Sparkle's ultimate could be considered projectiles if we really want to stretch, and I like stretching. That is a complete lie, I do not like stretching at all. Regardless, Sparkle putting on the mask and spinning around is not an attack, clearly, meaning V1 still can parry Sparkle's ultimate, but not anything after the initial projectiles. Acheron. Besties, he's gay! The flashes in this ultimate seem a bit too wide and fast for V1 to parry, and the target seems like they can't move at all during the ultimate anyways, which kind of unfair, but that means V1 cannot parry Acheron's ultimate. Aventurine. Let's go gambling! He's canonically Xingchue's bestie and you cannot convince me otherwise. I'm going to say that V1 could parry the dice as it's being thrown or spinning around since it's close enough to a projectile. The diamond, however, cannot be parried since it's too similar to an explosion, but the chips that come out of it afterwards are a different case. They can be parried since there are yellow flashes as they're coming out, and the chips are used as projectiles in Aventurine's other attacks, such as his follow-up attack. So, these are projectiles, meaning V1 can parry Aventurine's ultimate, just not the diamond's explosion. Robin. There is quite literally nothing to parry in this ultimate, so let's move on. V1 cannot parry Robin's ultimate since there is nothing to parry. Boot Hill. There is a yellow flash on the bullet, so we can already say that the bullet can be parried, but obviously the explosion that comes from it cannot be parried. I was gonna say it can be parried anyways, since it's similar to V2's revolver, which can be parried. Meaning, V1 can parry Boot Hill's ultimate, just not the explosion that comes out of the bullet. Firefly. Firefly's ultimate gives her access to an enhanced basic attack and skill, so we're gonna cover that instead of the actual ultimate itself. The ultimate itself would probably be some sort of like phase 2 for Firefly's fight. You know. Covering the enhanced basic attack first, I'm going to say that it can be parried, but only on the last hit. The first few hits are a bit too fast, but there is a yellow flash before the last hit, meaning V1 could parry that. Next up is her skill. Do I even need to say anything? Just like, look at that. You can't parry that. Regardless, V1 can parry Firefly's ultimate, just only the last hit of her enhanced basic attack. Jade. We don't like Jade as a character in this house, but we do like her as a playable character, because she's goated. She carried my Herta team until I got the funny Scholar Man. Insanity! It goes without saying that the bite from the giant snake can't be parried, just like, look at that. There's a blue flash anyway, so it can't be parried, and we said the same thing for Dan Heng's dragon, which is pretty similar. The step, however, I'm going to say can be parried. If Sisyphus' stomp can be parried, then Jade's lesser one can be parried too. This means that V1 can parry the initial stomp of Jade's ultimate, just not the snake afterwards. Yunli. Yunli's ultimate isn't an attack, but it gives access to an enhanced counter, so we're going to cover that instead. First up, you can't parry the eruption, let's get that out of the way. But the sword slam, however, is a different case. I'm going to say you can parry the sword slam because just imagine how sick that would be with the giant sword coming down and you can parry that. It's awesome. So, V1 can parry Yunli's ultimate, just not the eruption that comes after the initial slam. Jiaochu. Oh god, here it comes. Not the Acheron mains. No, not the Acheron mains. It won't! It won't! It won't! It isn't exactly clear how the liquid in Jiaochu's ultimate explodes, but the liquid itself doesn't damage the enemy, so that part is fine. I'm gonna say that the explosion also can't be parried since there's no clear indicator as to where it comes from, so there's nothing to cancel it. So V1 cannot parry Jiaochu's ultimate.
Is V1 a good support for Acheron?
Fei Xiao. So I kinda forgot to get full footage of Fei Xiao's ultimate. I forgot to get the sword attacking instead of just the axe, but it's basically the same thing so it doesn't really matter. Each swing of the axe or sword should be parryable. There's no blue flash, so why not? What? Her back tattoo glows? God. Okay. We can't exactly tell if that's green or blue, but I'm gonna say it's blue just to be safe and say that these attacks cannot be parried. Let's take a look at the punch afterwards, however. We said that red flashes mean that an attack can be parried, but not what comes after it. So we can say that the punch can be parried, but the tornado that comes after it cannot be, which makes sense. Meaning, V1 can parry Fei Xiao's ultimate, but only the punch. Lingsha. The initial smoke looks like it could be any other projectile, so I'm gonna say that can be parried, but the explosion afterwards, of course, cannot be parried. This means that V1 can parry Lingsha's ultimate, just only the initial projectile. Rappa. An island full of bananas. I'm going to treat the first two slashes as part of a combo, such as Sisyphus Prime's combo, but the projectile afterwards is a different case. The projectile seems to be quite fast, but it's still that, a projectile, meaning V1 could parry it, so V1 can parry Rappa's ultimate, just not the first two slashes. Sunday. This song is so ultra kill coded. Turn that up! The feather does flash yellow, so let's say that V1 could parry Sunday's hands just before they're opened, meaning V1 can parry Sunday's ultimate. Fugue. The pillars of fire are consistent projectiles such as lasers, meaning they cannot be parried. Simple case, V1 cannot parry Fugue's ultimate. The Herta. The Herta gains an enhanced skill after using her ultimate, so we're going to cover both the enhanced skill and the ultimate itself. The best character has entered the house, everyone welcome her. For the ultimate, there are so many different beams, and they cause explosions at the end of them anyways, so I'm going to say those cannot be parried. Plus, there are blue and purple flashes anyways, so... For the enhanced skill, the explosions are from a stationary spot, meaning there's no projectile to exactly parry, so V1 cannot parry the Herta's ultimate, or enhanced skill. Aglaya. Aglaya's ultimate enhances her basic attack, so we're going to cover both the ultimate and the enhanced basic attack. As Aglaya pulls out the sword, she technically swings it, so I'm going to say that's an attack that can be parried to cancel the rest of the ultimate. The dashes that Aglaya and her Garment Maker perform in her enhanced basic attack are very, very fast, but there are yellow flashes. I don't know exactly where the window would be, but V1 can parry Aglaya's enhanced basic attack, meaning V1 can parry Aglaya's ultimate as well. Tribby, Tribbles, Oopie Goopy even. I would say that the rocket cannot be parried, but there is a yellow flash as Tribby, Trian, and Trinon press the button, so V1 could parry the rocket to send it back. The explosion of the planet, of course, cannot be parried, but regardless, V1 can parry Tribby's ultimate. Night-Day. I would consider the spikes that raise up from the ground and the large spike to be some sort of hazard, and the explosion, well, do I even need to say it at this point? V1 cannot parry Miitop's ultimate. Castrice. Castrice's ultimate gives her access to a new enhanced basic attack, and summons Pollux, who gets a basic attack and skill as well, so we are going to cover all of those. Okay, there's a lot here again, so sit tight. I'd say the initial swing of Castrice's ultimate can't be parried, since the swing with a scythe is a bit too weird of an angle for V1 to parry. If we follow the rules from Castrice's ultimate, then the enhanced skill also cannot be parried, since it's just another swing but sideways. I would, however, say that Pollux's claw can be parried, since it's a big attack from a big target, similar to the corpse of King Minos once more, so that can be parried. Pollux's basic attack, where it swings its claw across, also can be parried since it's similar to the enhanced skill, which we said can be parried. Do I even need to say anything about Pollux's skill? Like, and boom! Plus, there's a blue flash anyways, so no parry. This means that V1 can parry Pollux's claw swipes, just not the rest of Castrice's ultimate, which is quite a lot, but that means V1 can still parry Castrice's ultimate. Anaxa, Anaxagoras. Something out of nothing. I'm just a frail scholar. With this divine power, I reforge all things! There is a yellow flash in Anaxa's eye before the rest of the ultimate, so I'm going to say that V1 could parry the orb in Anaxa's hands to cancel the tree explosion, which the tree explosion afterwards of course cannot be parried. But, nonetheless, V1 can parry Anaxa's ultimate. Hyacinth. Whoa, guys, look, it's Barbara! Laugh! Considering Hyacinth throws Little Ika, I'm going to say that Little Ika is a projectile that can be parried because that would be funny as hell. Just imagine punching Little Ika and it goes into a projectile just like on impact. And the rain afterwards cannot be parried since it's just rain, but nonetheless, V1 can parry Hyacinth's ultimate. Cypher. As Cypher is teleporting around, there are plenty of yellow flashes, meaning V1 could parry her here, despite how fast she is. The coins in this ultimate also, of course, could be considered normal coins, so V1 could shoot those as well. That's not a parry, but it's something I figured I could mention. Regardless, V1 can parry Cypher's ultimate. Phanon. Phanon's ultimate gives him access to, well, a lot of stuff, so we gotta cover it all. For Phanon's blast attack, considering the rift it opens, I'm gonna say that's unparryable. Do I even need to say anything about it? Like, come on. For the bounce attack, those meteors seem a bit too large, and same with the giant planet thing, so I'm gonna say that too can't be parried. For the enhance attack, I'm not even gonna say it, you know this, V1 can't parry that. So V1 cannot Wait a second, wait a second, wait a second, wait a second. The final hit. There's something about the final hit. There's a yellow flash in that. It looks insane. It looks insane. It looks like V1 can't parry that. But there's a yellow flash, meaning V1 can parry that. V1 can parry Finon's ultimate. Barely. I knew I could believe in V1. I definitely believed in V1 for this one. V1 can parry Finon's ultimate. Barely. So there we go. That's it. That is every Honkai Star Rail Ultimate as the 3.4's first phase, and if V1 can or cannot parry them. Let's take a look at how many ultimates V1 can parry total. V1 can parry 46 out of 72 ultimates, and honestly, I expected less, so I'm proud of you, V1. Very, very proud of you. Good robot. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, please make sure to like and subscribe. And if you want to, leave a comment with any ideas for other videos for me to make, because that would be helpful. And I do have ideas for more videos similar to this that I could make, but I only want to do those if other people want to see them. But I might make them anyway, because I enjoy making these things. So, leave a comment if you have any ideas. And make sure to have a wonderful day. Bye bye!